Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to show you how to create this awesome input suggestion autocomplete in React. Let me show you. For example, let's try Dallas Baptist University, Search University. Let's try with Warsaw School of Social Psychology. So you get the idea. Every time I type something, we are doing API requests to find a fit to the name I'm typing, and if there's any fit, we are suggesting the rest of the name. So now let's jump into the code. So as always, we are starting with new React app, an empty one, as you can see here in the files, and then we have also this server running. Alright, so let's go to app.js and let's remove all this stuff that we don't need. So on the beginning we will just need an input, and that's all. Yeah, we have an input here. The next thing is that we want to have input value in state. So let's import use state from React. All right, and let's define this state here. So const, let's call it user value, and set user value equals use state, and default string as default. And here in our input, let's do value equals user value. All right, let's do also maybe placeholder that will be search university. All right, and maybe let's also make it a little bigger, so style, and let's do width of 300 pixels, or maybe 250. All right, so the next thing is that we can't actually type here inside because we are not updating user value. So to do this, we need to create a function handle user input change. All right, and here inside we can we will have an event, and from this event we can get the value of the input. So const input value equals event target value, and we can now use this value to set user value that will be later use also here in user value. So set user value to input value. All right, now we also need to use this function, so let's put it here on change, and we'll get an event, and here handle user input change, and we pass the event. All right, now we should be able to type. Yes, it works. All right, so the next thing is that every time the user value changes, we want to call an API and find a suggestion. So to do this, we will use effect to monitor value of user value. So now let's do use effect, and the first part is a callback, and the second param is dependency, so it will be our user value, the variable that we want to monitor. All right, so when user value changes, we want to call our API and find a suggestion. So to call our API, we will first need Axios. So I will do yarn add Axios, and while it's installing, I will import it here at the top. So import Axios from Axios. All right, and now we can do the get callback or get request. So Axios get, and here I have a link to the API to find the universities. All right, and we will pass a name, so it will be plus, and our name that is inside user value. So let's use it, user value, like this, and then we can do other stuff with the result. But before we do this, let's put it in a separate function. Let's call it function find suggestion for, and here we will have a phrase, and here we will call it like this. But instead of user value, let's use this phrase that we are going to pass. All right, and when we get the result, let's do console log to see what do we have inside. And as you can see, this function is not yet used because it needs to be called here, find suggestion for and user value. All right, now if I open console here, and when I search for something like S, we get a result here with data, and we have here a really big array of universities that match S as a name. All right, so let's open one and see. So in every university we have some university information, but we only need this name part. All right, so we need to save the university name, or at least the missing part, somewhere so we can display the suggestion. All right, so to do this, I will define a new state for it. So let's call it suggestion part, and set suggestion part will be use state and empty string as a default. All right, so now we need to get a university that fits our input, the beginning of our name that we are typing. So to do this, we will do, let's do const found university will be result data, and here we'll have the array of all the universities. So now we will do find, and with each university we need to check, let's see, that university name starts with the thing that we have inside our input. So university name starts with our input. So index of our phrase is at 0 position, so at the beginning. Right, so now if we have found our university, we want to do something, otherwise we want to tell that we couldn't find anything. And to do this, to put it outside this function so we can use it here, we can't do just return because it will go to this then function. Instead, we will create a new promise here, return new promise, right? And here we'll have resolve and reject callback, and we will put this code here inside. So if we found something, let's call resolve with the found stuff, and this one goes here, and we also have reject, so let's put it here, reject if we didn't find anything. All right, so now we have we are returning a promise here, and as you can see, it's there's underline because we are not handling this promise, but we will do this now. So after we found something, let's do then, and we have a new university here passed, but instead of passing whole university, let's just pass only the name. So found name, and here we'll have this university name. So let's do university name, And with this university name, let's save it inside our suggestion part. So let's do set suggestion part. And in here, we don't want to put everything. For example, if we want to suggest Stockholm University and we have S inside our input, we don't want to save Stockholm University, but only Stockholm University, so without S, because we just want to display the part that we want to suggest, so without the user input. So we will do university name without the beginning, so it will be substring, and the beginning is actually user value length. So we start after the user value length, after S. So if it's only S, then it's 1, user value length will be 1, and we'll get from the first, after the first character, so Stockholm University. All right, and if we don't get anything, so we need to handle this reject. If we couldn't find anything, let's make suggestion part to an empty string. So if there isn't any suggestion, don't try to suggest the last suggestion, but instead let's just remove it. All right, and another thing that we want to also check is to not find, try to find suggestions if there is nothing to look for. So if it's empty, we don't want to run this API. So to do this, let's do if user value length is bigger than 0, then we want to run this. Otherwise, let's just set suggestion part to an empty string. So if it's empty, don't suggest anything. All right, so we have this part. Now it will be nice to display this suggestion somewhere. So if we do S, I want to have a suggestion here inside my input. To do this, I will go here to the value of my input and I will add plus suggestion part. Save. So I only put here typed S, and this need state community college is the suggestion part. All right, but I want to have this highlighted like this, so I can keep typing like N or something else here. So to do this, we want to check if this have changed. So let's use effect, and we want to know if suggestion part have changed, and if so, then we want to select the suggestion part inside our input. To do this, we will need to use reference to our input. So I will add use reference to import it here, and I need to also define it here. So const, let's call it InputRef, and it will be use ref like this. Now we need to put it inside our input. So here ref input ref. Okay, so now inside input ref we have reference to our input. So here when suggestion part changes, we can do something with our input. So I will do the selection part. So input ref current, because it's reference, selection start equals, let's say 0. But wait, it will not be 0, because if I have like S and it will fill with net state community college, I want to start selection from here, so after the stuff that I typed. So it will be user value length and the ending of the selection. So input ref current selection end will be user value length plus the suggestion length. So it will be suggestion part length, like this. So now, as you can see, it's highlighted or selected. Okay, another thing that we want to fix is to check that university name after we get the suggestion still fits our user value. But instead of using this variable user value, it can be, because it can be outdated here, I will create another reference. So let's do const state reference use ref, and here I will do state ref current equals user value, and here I will do state ref current and length. And here I will also check if the university name still fits. So let's do const still fits, and it will be the suggestion. So university name index of state ref current equals 0. So here we are checking that university name that we get from the API still fits our user value that is inside the state ref. All right, so okay, so if it fits, let's do if still fits, then we want to set suggestion part. Otherwise, let's do just set suggestion part to an empty string, so we don't suggest anything if the stuff that we are suggesting is not correct anymore. All right, so now let's check sto stone child college Stockholm University. Yes, it works nice. Okay, there is one more thing that we may want to fix. Let me show. I will go to network, I will clear everything and do Stockholm University, and as you can see, every letter I type, it will call a new API request. Here let's do L, but it's still the same university name, so we actually don't need to call it every time, because we can check first if the current suggestion still fits, and if it still fits, we don't need to call the API, because we can just suggest the thing that already fits here. To do this, let's go back to our handle user input change. All right, and in here we have input value, but we don't want to set all input value to user value, because after we have it like this, whole thing will be sent back to user value, and then another suggestion part will be added. So if I do something like this, then it doesn't work as it should. STOC Stockholm University, yeah, it doesn't work like it should. All right, so I want to get the part that is not selected here. So user value is not the whole thing from the input, but only the stuff that is not selected. So to get this, I will do const new user value equals, so we can get it from input value, and we need to do substring, just the part of it, not the whole thing, and we will start from 0 from the beginning and until selection starts. So we can actually do whole thing minus the selection, then we know that we only need this part. So whole thing is the input value, so input value length minus, and now the selected part that we have a suggestion part dot length. All right, Now it will be better. Now we need to use this new user value and put it inside user value. So let's use new user value. Now when we have a new user value here, and before we are setting it to user value, we know what is the difference. So the difference between now and before is new user value minus user value. So let's get this difference, const diff, and let's inside new user value dot substring. So if I here type h, the new user value will be stock h, and before this will be run, the user value will be stock without h. User value will be stock and new user value will be stock h here. So I want to get the diff, so it will be only the h part here. So to do this, I get the whole thing, so stock h, and I want to get substring that starts from here. So from the end of the old part. So it will be user value length until the rest. So until the rest of the new user value. So we can leave it like this. So when we have the diff, we can check that diff is part of this suggestion. And if it is, we don't need to call API, but instead we can only update suggestion ourselves, just to moving this h to new user value and removing h from the suggestion. So to do this, we need to check that inside suggestion part, let's do index of. So the index of the diff is at the beginning of suggestion part, so equals 0. So the diff that our h letter is at the beginning of our suggestion part, and if it is, then we want to remove this h from the suggestion part. So we will do set suggestion part, and the new suggestion part will be old suggestion part minus this diff on the beginning. So it will be substring, and we'll remove the front part, the beginning, so it will be one letter here, but it can be several letters. So let's do diff length. All right. Okay, another small thing that I forgot is that if it doesn't fit, then we want to do set suggestion part to an empty string like this. All right, so now let's try New York University. Yes. Uppsala University. Yes, that is correct. Now maybe try Warsaw. Okay, there is something wrong with the selection. It's selecting everything, and I think I know what it is. So here inside our use effect that we are doing, we shouldn't actually use the user value, but instead we should do state reference. So I will get this one outside and I will put it here, so we'll have reference to our state. And let's go back here, state reference current length, and also here state reference current length. Okay, now I should probably rename that. Let's rename it to UserValue ref. All right, now let's check. Uppsala. Okay, so it's still selecting from the beginning. Let's see. Okay, let's console log new user value and see what we got here. Do you? Whoops. Yeah, it should be below the definition like this. Now do u p p. Okay. So there, I think this part is wrong. Let's try to console log it and do new user value and input value length and suggestion part length. And let's put it as an array like this. And now let's refresh and see. Okay, so this is actually wrong. The new user value is actually just input value. So we can do like Uppsala University. You see, now it works. Let's do Stockholm University. Yeah, it works. And let's try Warsaw. Yeah, it works too. What else? Let's try New York. Yeah, it works too. So yeah, it works. Let's just remove this console log, and we don't actually need this new user value. We can move it here, and we don't need this part. So yeah, it works. Voila. So that's all for today. Don't forget to click the like button and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this one.